Good afternoon, everybody. Fergus Dolan here from NALA. Delighted to have you here today for our webinar on creating materials that develop digital literacy skills and encourage self-directed learning. We're delighted to have Mary Claire Hally here presenting today, facilitating today. Mary Claire is a tutor and trainer with the Dublin Adult Learning Centre, that's DALC. So over to you, Mary Claire, and all the best.
Thanks, Fergus. Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you. Yeah, so that's me, Mary Claire, from the Dublin Adult Learning Centre. So I teach IT, spelling, a bit of ESOL, and I also do tutor training and kind of synchronous online learning coordinator. So finding materials and tools for the tutors to use in the centre. So just on there. So today we're going to be looking at self-directed learning, QR codes for sharing, and tools and resources that I use, and hopefully you can share the ones that you use as well in the chat. If you do have any questions throughout the presentation or the workshop today, please pop them into chat for me, and we might not get to them straight away, but we'll get to them at some point. Thanks. Right, so these are just some quotes here that I like to consider when I'm developing digital literacy materials. So the task should decide the tool. So we should consider what we're doing with our students or our learners, and not just focusing on the tool that we're using. Enhancing the learning and not replacing the learning. So if we have something that we're focused on, not kind of finding the new toy or the new tool that we want to use, just making sure that it fits in with what the student is doing or the learner. And then finally there we have the NALA one, which is addressing the needs of the learner, working at a pace that suits them and mapping out a learning path that fits in with their life and their interests. So of course, just focusing on what the learner needs, what they want to achieve from their time with you. And I guess as well, just kind of looking at texts and tools that will help them with their everyday life. So maybe banking, could be paying their taxes, passports. We've all probably had people approaching us about the passports and things, especially as the summer's coming up, people are realizing they're out of date. So yeah, great. I just have someone popped up my screen there. So this is the digital literacy plan from the EU. And they feel that problem solving, information and data literacy, communication and collaboration, digital content creation and safety are the priorities. But there is a quote in their framework that I liked. It's defined as a combination of knowledge, skills and attitudes. So we're not just focused on the skills with the students, we're focused on them understanding things in relation to digital literacy and their attitude towards things as well. So making them, I guess, confident with things and knowledgeable. The safety element, I think, is a priority, ensuring that they know how to use digital tools correctly, especially the internet, researching, knowing what sites are safe and so on. And this is from our own government, the 10-year Adult Literacy, Numeracy and Digital Literacy Strategy. And their focus is on family life, employability, good health, job retention, living safely, shopping, services, new skills, finances, security, and community life. So having the technology to be able to use it to complete many of the functions outlined above, that's what our government is focused on. Basically helping our students being able to access new information, news, using email. I mean, email is just so prominent now within daily life, within anything. They need to be able to access things online, such as banking, like I said before, any of your government's things now, if you can access them online, you have a step up for sure. And social media means you're up to date with what's going on in the world, and other tools as well. Okay, so far everyone? I hope so. I can't see any faces at the moment, so I'll just keep going.
Yep, all perfect.
All good, yeah, grand. So have people heard of scaffolding before? scaffolding and the zone of proximal development. That's a mouthful. So this is by Vygotsky, and scaffolding or supportive activities provided by the educator or more competent peers support the students as they're led through the zone of proximal development. So this is our zone of proximal development here. We've got what the learner cannot do, what the learner can do with help, and what the learner can do without help. We want to get them to hopefully what the learner can do without help, but to do that, we need to help them achieve that, okay? So with this, we've got the learner can do with help here in the middle, and this is the section that I'm going to focus on as the scaffolding for building up the learner's confidence with using tools. Sorry, there's people popping up on my screen there. All right. So with this, we need to give support, like it said, sorry, in this quote here, scaffolding or supportive activities provided by the educator or more competent peer support the student to develop their skills, okay? So that support can come from many different areas, and there's more areas than I have up here, really. Peers are one thing, classmates, if your students are working with others in a group setting, or it could be their family, giving them support. But it's important that it's temporary. It's important that they don't become dependent on this support as well. Is there someone there? No? Okay. Their tutors can be supportive as well, of course, showing them, guiding them through how to do things. Building up their skills and their knowledge and their confidence, of course, as well. Resources, so any handouts you give to them or books and things like that can help develop their knowledge in an area and build up their skills and their confidence in that. And of course, technology. I don't know, I've had a few students come to me lately and say, oh, I looked it up on YouTube and now I know how to do this, which is great. But you just need to make sure that they're able to do it properly. So you need to maybe review things with them, or Google as well, and showing them, I guess this comes into your digital literacy as well, showing them how to Google things properly and research things properly online. Okay, so is there any other support systems that you can think of or anything? Chat is very quiet today. Okay, great. All right, I'm going to move on, but there will be some interaction later, guys. So yeah, that's okay. We're going to be using some websites together. All right. Okay, so another theorist that I have used, especially recently, last year, I completed a master's in e-learning. And as part of my thesis, I was interested in this model, which is the staged self-directed learning model developed by Gerald Grow. And Gerald Grow believes that the student and the teacher or the tutor or the facilitator should be on the same page, basically, with their styles, okay? So with this, he has stage one, where the student might be dependent on the tutor or on their peers or on their support system. For this student will work best with an authority or a coach style of a tutor. So somebody who's going to drill information into them, give them what they want, basically, yeah? Stage two, though, we've got our student is more interested and they would work best with a motivator or a guide style teacher. And this means someone who will inspire, give lectures, guide the discussions, goal settings, and so on. Sorry, my throat's gone dry for some reason. That's stage two, so they will work best together. The third stage there is a student who is involved in their learning. And they work best with someone who is a facilitator. So somebody who's going to discuss things, create seminars and open group discussions with them. And the final stages are self-directed students, okay? They've achieved it. And they work best with a consultant or a delegator. So they're not dependent on the teacher. They're going to work best in a group, maybe a self-directed group, and have discussions and be kind of at the same equal as a teacher. So the thing about this is, a dependent student and a consultant delegator teacher is not going to work well. There's going to be a lot of clashing there. The student is going to feel like they're not supported. Whereas the same with a self-directed student who's with an authority or a coach teacher is not going to work well because they're more independent. So just recognizing what your student needs and what your style of teaching is. I'm just going to take a break for a split second. Just give you time to have a look at that piece there, actually, because it is very interesting. And his written pieces are very interesting as well. His published publications are very interesting as well to read through. Definitely. Okay, any questions about that, or has anyone heard of it before? You can pop anything into chat there if you want. So you'll find actually Gerald Grove has a website where he has all of his information on, because he was a journalist. So he has a lot of his pieces, journalism pieces as well up there. But his writing is very easy to read because he was a journalist. He doesn't write strictly like an academic. So if you're interested in him, I'd check it out for sure. Yeah, thanks, Fiona. Yeah, it does make sense. And these things always do make sense. But when you see them written down, it just kind of clarifies things for you. And it's something that gives you kind of a guide, I guess, to follow. Yeah, but thanks, Fiona. That's great. Yeah. All right. Oh, wrong way. Okay, so this is just an example of what I created for my thesis. So I'm just going to show that to you now. So I created a self-directed learning artifact or worksheet where the students could take the worksheet home and just completely work on it on their own. And with that, there was an ebook. So they were able to access that ebook through the QR code and have a read of it there. Okay, so with the artifact that I created, the book was actually, the artifact was the teacher. So I put in elements that a teacher would be in control of usually in the classroom. I had students input from DALC as well, which was fantastic, getting those students who are basic spelling students, I got their input as well. So one of the students asked for a video at the start to guide them through it, to tell them what to do as well. So that's all parts of self-directed learning. I'll just show you here actually. So this list is kind of what I used to develop my own materials. So direction was needed. And again, the student actually self-identified that, which was fantastic. Direction is needed when creating any kind of self-directed learning materials. So they need to know what they need to do, basically. So you might be giving them just instructions at the start. You might tell them what to do in person, or you might create a little video explaining it as well. Setting goals is very important when it comes to self-directed learning. They need to know that they're going to achieve it, how they're going to achieve it, and that they did achieve it. Motivation. So we have intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. So intrinsic is their own motivation, and they're doing it for themselves, for their own needs. Extrinsic might be for their family, maybe it's for maybe again, they have to get a passport. Maybe they have to access their taxes online or do their banking. Maybe social welfare has told them they have to go do a course. So that can be difficult. But, you know, just thinking about motivation is important. You need the student to be open to the new experience, because otherwise they're going to shoot it down straight away, you know, if they're not open to it. Explanations throughout. So again, this is back to the direction, you know, giving them guidance on why and what they're doing, explaining it to them. Feedback is also very important, and that comes into a part at the end actually, which is gamification. So giving students feedback on how they're doing, which when I was doing the self-directed learning artifact for my master's, I added elements of gamification, so a little game, word game that they would play, and it would tell them if they were correct or not, which helped a lot. Now this is actually, the 7 and 8 are part of Gerald Grove, as far as I can remember. So giving praise, but phasing that out and bringing in encouragement instead. Okay, so phasing in encouragement and phasing out the praise. Self-evaluation, so learners being able to think back and say, okay, I got that, that's great, or I could maybe work a bit better on that. So just giving them those opportunities to develop that skill within the work. Critical thinking. So maybe including parts in the work that you're creating for them to build up their critical thinking skills. Could be just a question, you know, or it could be something a little bit deeper. And finally, like I said, gamification, which is the fun part, I guess. But gamification provides the student with a lot of the skills they need and a lot of the motivation actually they need, because creating a game gives them instant feedback. It can also give them motivation and validation from when they get things correct, you know. So a lot of games will make a little noise, a little ding if they got something correct, or a little yay, which motivates all of us. And we all get that. I don't know if anyone's doing Duolingo or anything like that at the moment, but we all get a little bit happy when we get that correct symbol. Any questions or anything? I'll just leave that up for a second. So there was something there, I think, from...
Yeah, there's a comment from Karen Norton.
Yeah, never heard of Gerald Grove, but I think the table is very interesting. Should say things work well. Yeah, definitely, Karen. Thank you. Yeah, and why not as well. So it's just maybe when you're with your students or your learners, just thinking about maybe it's just you're not approaching them the correct way, or not approaching their learning the way they need you to, basically. And are you able to adapt to that, or is there somebody else that would suit them better, really? Yeah.
There's a comment there from Louise Mulcahy as well.
Yeah, great. Great. Yeah, no, I'll create some kind of image on this, and I can send it out to people for sure. Yeah, that's no problem. 7 and 8, thanks. Yeah, no, that's, again, I think as far as I remember, that's part of Karen, that's part of Gerald Grove. So yeah, if you have a look at him, for sure, I think you'll be interested in his work. But yeah, phasing out the praise and just building up the encouragement. Great, thanks guys. Oh yeah, so when I was creating the worksheet and the ebook, these are kind of the tools that I use. Some of the tools. So within it, actually, I can, I'm gonna go out and show it to you briefly. Sorry guys, this is just there. Practicing with Zoom. So this is the book that I made for the students, and I made then a worksheet to accompany it. This was the, I think, 3rd or 4th incarnation of the project, because it was again a thesis, so it was built up over time. But back on the first page there, you'll see like the video there telling the students what to do. This app, sorry, is called Book Creator, and I will be showing it to you in a few minutes again. But it had a video in it there. had explanations here as well. So my own voice explaining things, and they could go through it and click on the game here and it would bring them to it. It's not working today, of course. So they could click on this link and this would pop up for them in the book. It wouldn't actually bring them to a new page, which is good, because if it does, it can get confusing for students to go to a new page. And then it had the story that went along with the worksheet. So there is a worksheet that accompanied it, and it meant that they could have the paper beside them, film it in, and then they could read the book if they wanted on the book creator. And book creator also has a built-in reader as well, so you can
write on paper,
and it will read out to students,
or the worksheet,
or you can put in your own voice as well. And then the part at the end, the extra work, is where our self-directed learning element really comes into play, because this is optional. Okay, so giving students the option to do a little bit extra if they want to, giving them prompts, extra games, or a video to watch that gets them thinking. So within that, I used a lot of different elements. So you can see here, so the introduction video, I had to screen record, I used YouTube, I used iMovie and Book Creator for that. I used Canva and Book Creator to create what's called an authentic text. So a text that is from their everyday life or related to everyday life of the student. The word game, I used Wordwall, which is like my new favorite thing. I only found out we've actually been using it for a year in Dalk, and it's flown by because it's such a great tool. And we love it there. Book Creator again. And Book Creator we've been using actually since the COVID lockdowns, the first ones. And we found that they were really useful for our students because they had the read to me element as well. And it meant you could create books out of anything you wanted. I then created questions on Book Creator and a printable worksheet as well, which I use Google Docs for because we use the Google Apps, and I'll show you those as well in a bit. I placed a QR code on the worksheet as well. And we're going to have a look at that in a bit more in depth in a minute. But QR codes have become a major part of student life, but also a major part of their learning with me. Anyway, I use it with all my students. And optional additional work, like using things like RTE and YouTube, anything like that to create something or to get students thinking. I'll just check chat there. Great. Brilliant. Thanks, Derv. Ryan has popped the link in there for us. And Louise, great. Thank you. Great. So yeah, that was a lot of work though, guys. So don't worry, you don't need to kind of create that. That took me a few weeks to do. So don't worry, but I'm going to show you a few of those elements today. And sorry, there's another look there at it. So you can see there's the worksheet. So I put in a closed text. So they had to fill that in from the book. Then they had a list to do. And then on the back, there was questions and answers for the reading as well. Okay. Any questions before I move on? Time are we? Okay, time is going quick. So that's kind of the main theory part of it. So if there is any questions on that, feel free to ask. Great, thanks, Siobhan. Okay, so these are kind of three keywords that I keep in my mind when I'm creating materials in general, but also for digital literacy, especially on self-directed learning. So making sure that it's enjoyable. Again, that's the kind of game element that comes into it a lot, in the interaction and the interactive elements. Making sure that it's suitable for the level of the student, I guess. Also the devices maybe that they have, or the abilities or the access to internet and so on, and making sure it's relevant as well. So making sure the material is relevant to their everyday life is just, it's much more enriching for the student and for yourself as well. Book Creator is free. I'll be showing you it in a few minutes. Don't worry. The one I use is free anyway. And all the apps actually today that I'll show you, there are free elements to it. Now there are ones that you can pay for and get a bit more, of course, as always. And a lot of them actually, you could maybe, if you're working with an organization or anything like that, they might be able to get a license for the whole organization as well. Right. Okay, so in chat, I'm just interested to know, do you use digital resources with your students, and how do you share those digital resources with them? Can you just pop into chat for me? Great. Teams, yeah. Email, Teams and email, great. E-workbook, yeah. Teams. Okay, we have a lot of Teams coming up, okay. Microsoft Teams, yeah.
There's Laura Cullen said phones as well.
Great, yeah. Oh, I can see there, yeah, giving them a link in WhatsApp or email. And I guess, are a lot of you working with students remotely, or are you seeing them in person? WhatsApp, great. Great, Gabrielle. Used Book Creator before. And I guess like during lockdown and everything, we had a big rush towards digital learning and tools and things. And I think maybe it was overload, but I do think it's time to like revisit these things, because a lot of our students learn these new skills, but we want to make sure they keep those skills up as well and develop them for their needs. Videos, email, in person, great, thanks. In person, remote, in person. Okay, our chooses workflows, we use QR codes, also computer skills. Yeah, computer skills, I use lots of them with my IT classes. Great, in person. Okay, great. All right, that's loads. Great, guys. Thank you. So we have a few things there: email, sending links on WhatsApp, and inputting things into people's phones. So that this QR code element will be definitely useful for that. If you're giving them hard copies, especially, as well as digital links to do things. All right, just reading Karen's there. Great, thanks. Okay, guys, so we have a good mixture here. Most people are working in person, which is great. So you could maybe create materials for your students and work with QR codes. So I'm just going to promote QR codes here for a few minutes. QR codes have become a part of our everyday life. I don't know if you've noticed. I'm sure we have all seen the little squares everywhere. I remember actually before like they became big, I remember seeing a little square on like a bus stop or something, thinking, what is that? I'm not going to click on that. That seems dodgy. But now they're everywhere. So we have like our menus, and we have them in payment. I had to pay, I was in London in a restaurant and I had to pay by scanning a QR code and going to a website, and everything was all a little bit complicated. And that's why I guess we need to kind of show our learners how to use them, and just including that in their learning as just a mode, I guess, as opposed to something that they have to learn, just a mode of delivery. Also, actually, this is a great one, is that the Dublin City Council have them on the side of bins. So you can actually report if a bin is full. So if you're in Dublin, I'm not sure if they're countrywide or not, but if you're in Dublin, this is a good way to kind of get your students to start using them, get them out and about and looking around at the bins. But yeah, menus and everything. So if you find maybe a menu somewhere, you could bring it into your student and maybe have a go at clicking on it. So yeah, like I said, I used it in the top of the worksheet here so that the students could access the book creator and read along with their worksheet. So you could use a phone or a tablet for that. Now a QR code, you can see it here. Sorry, I'll go back a second. It's just lots of little squares. It's basically a barcode. Yeah. and it's just lots of little squares. There's, I don't know, I can't do the maths, but there's a lot of different variations of them out there that it's an ongoing thing. So yeah, they're here to stay as far as I can tell anyway, for now. So yeah, you can create materials. We use them in our classroom for games and things at the start of class, maybe, or near the end of class. We create games and create QR codes because we're lucky enough in Dalk to have tablets that we can bring down to the classroom. And then their students are able to take the tablet and scan it and play the game independently, you know. So that kind of element, I think, is important to them, that they're able to just do that. And they don't even think about it anymore. Like, they just kind of open the tablet, open the Google Lens that we're going to talk about, and then just access their work there. Okay, so I'm just going to close the chat there. All right, so QR codes can be created many different ways. There's three ways, really, three main ways. One website that I use is called the QRCodeGenerator.com. If you Google it, you'll find a few different websites that you can do this on, but I've just found that this one works best for me. It's free, you don't have to sign in, you don't have to do anything like that, no messing, it's just straight up. The other one is, there's actually an option just on Google Chrome, and there's a share button that you can click on, and I'll show you that now in a second as well. And a lot of websites actually have it now that you can just share directly from the website. They'll have a share button, and it'll say, do you want to copy the link? Do you want to send it to WhatsApp, Facebook, or do you want a QR code? Yeah, so we'll have a look at those three things now in a second. But why are we using them? Or when might we use them as well? So we've got supporting materials to go along with maybe the work that you're doing in class, or sharing work with students. Maybe that you, again, this comes into your self-directed learning. You want them to take it home and work with it. You don't want to have to send them a link or send them, put it into their phone for themselves, or sending emails. Additional materials, this is our self-directed learning here. So you might give them additional materials that they can have a look at themselves if they want to. For ebooks, videos, quizzes, for on Zoom, actually. So if you are working with students on Zoom, you can put a QR code up on the screen, and then they can scan it with their phone and access it directly, which is quite useful. Or on paper materials as well, so you can copy it into a document, QR code. Okay, there. Great, thanks, Noelle. Is that the one you use, Noelle? Yeah. You guys, feel free to turn on your microphones if you want. Yeah. Noelle?
No, I haven't used it. I was just looking it up.
Oh, very good. Yeah, there's a lot of them out there for sure. Yeah. So I'm gonna escape here for a second. Sorry, there's a lot of links and stuff, so I'm just going in and out of my presentation, so I hope I'm not making anyone dizzy. So, for example, if we go in here to the NALA workbook, so the Digital Matters workbook here, it's the PDF version, and we wanted to create a QR code. We've got the share this page option here on the right. Can everyone see that? So I know the bar might be in the way, but it should be okay. So share this page, and you get a list of different ways you can share the page. Okay. Now, my bar is blocking my view of that, so I'll just move it. So you can see here, one of them is create QR code. All right. So if we do that, and there's our QR code there. We can then download it as a JPEG. Okay, and it'll just download here. And then you can place it into a document or place it up on the screen for students to access on their tablet or their phone. So that's one way. The other way is the QR code generator, which is the one I use here. So I've already, let me just get rid of this. I'm going to go back here a second and copy the address for the workbook. I'm going to paste it into this section here. And the really nice thing about this website is you can actually change it slightly. But actually, there's one there with the NALA logo, which we have to pay for. That's not NALA's fault, though. That's the website's fault. But there are ones where you can put that are free, that are different colors. That one we have to pay for, but there are a few other kind of styles here. This green one, and black and orange one as well. And if we want that, then what we do is go up here and we copy the image to a clipboard, and then we can paste it into a document or into a presentation that you're going to use. Okay. I guess the other one was the so in like the likes of Padlet, they'll have it built in here. So if I click on Padlet, should be here. Where is it? Share. So I'll go into the share section here, and they'll have get QR code. So there are 3 different ways of doing it. So whichever way you find handiest, go for it. I recommend kind of using them as much as you can. Our students in DALC use them without thinking. It's kind of just become habit that they go in, they open the phone, they access Google Lens, or actually a lot of cameras on phones now just pick up QR codes without having to go into any app. They shouldn't have to actually download an app at all. So they have Google search, and it'll have a little camera in it, and they can actually access it that way, or the Google Lens app. I don't know if people are using that with their students, but the Google Lens app will allow them to read text off the phone as well, and lots of different things. So that's one of our students there just accessing it. I think it took about 10 seconds to do that. So once the students get familiar with it, I'll just show you that again. Or not.
Mary Claire,
there's no sound on that one. Yeah, sorry, Fergus, go on.
Breda Hayes asking, can you share documents from Google Drive with a QR code also?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can do that. Any of those ways. Yeah, definitely. So you can do it from the QR code generator, where you just copy the link in. You just have to change the settings if you want it to be editor or viewer, who you want to look at it. But yeah, you can. Thanks, Fergus. Yeah. Was there another one there? Great. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, like I said, our student just kind of, they open the tablets, click on the app, click on the camera. And, you know, it's all about troubleshooting as well, because if that doesn't work, they have to figure out why it doesn't work. So they usually will go back to the start and try it again. And they've become experts really in it, because we'll have a new student come into the classroom, and the students will all be eager to show them how to use it and so on. So yeah, they're really useful.
Mary Claire, there's 1 or 2 more comments and questions. So Christine is asking, is there a reason you picked Google Docs instead of Word?
Yes and no. I use Google Docs. I use the Google Apps in work at the moment because they're free. We have Google Workspace for Education, which you can get as an organization, and you get access to all the apps for free. Yeah. So any Google account actually has all of the Google apps for free. So you get Google Docs, you get Google Forms, you get Google PowerPoint, which is called Google Slides. So you get all these versions. They're just slightly different to Word, you know. It's like I say to my students, it's like the difference between Coke and Pepsi. So you just gotta decide which you prefer, and which your organization as well prefers. Is that okay, Christine?
And Fiona is saying, this is a great way to share information to groups. I didn't know it was possible in so many areas.
Yeah, great. Yeah, no, it is. The QR codes are fantastic. Like, we would make like a worksheet full of QR codes, and then the students in any kind of free time that we would have in class, they could pick ones that they want to look at. So they might want to do a bit of reading or a bit of game or a bit of writing or anything in there. Yeah, great. Thanks, guys. So there we go. Okay, so I'm going to move on. What time are we? Okay, we're doing good, I think. So I'm going to move on to some of the apps that I use myself in work. And like I said, the Google Apps is a preference. because there's lots of them. And also they're connected to your Google account. And I find I use it with not basic students, but like students who have a bit of IT skills. I've used it with ESOL Basic actually, and they find it quite easy because a lot of them are familiar with Gmail and signing into Gmail, so they'll sign into their apps quite well. But I'm just going to backtrack a second and look at Padlet. Have people used Padlet before? I think we're all familiar with Padlet. Great. So Padlet is not that video. Padlet is a wall that you can use to share things again with your students. And so you might use it to upload links to videos or get them to upload things as well. So you might do a photo project with them. You might do a writing project with them or a mapping project with them. So one example, and I will show you this in more detail, is we did a project with them where they had to go out and take photos of words, basically. So they had to go out and find signs and find like parking signs and things, and they had to go and take a photo of them and scan the QR code to get the Padlet and then upload the photo that they found. But you could also give them flipped classroom materials. So you might say, okay, watch this video before next week and we'll have a chat about it. Or have a look at this book creator and we'll have a chat, we'll practice that again next week, you know? So it depends if you're giving work before the class or after the class. I'm just gonna check that chat there. Okay, Padlet, yeah. Yeah, so Padlet is just, I guess, handy for access. It's not too complicated, like, you know, uploading something to Moodle or Classroom. So using Padlet is quite straightforward, and I have an opportunity for you all to have a go at it as well in a second. Okay. So yeah, the Google Apps are in here. So if you see your 9 dots, or as we like to call it, the chocolate box, you can click on that and you have all of your free apps here. There are actually more available than on this section. You go into more from Google and you can find more in there. The ones I probably use the most, Google Docs, which is just for a word processing. So typing up documents, doing worksheets, getting students to type up as well, which is great. Slides for presentations. Jamboard is a big one that I use with students. I'll show you an example of that in a second. Google Forms is another good one for kind of doing quizzes with students or getting them to practice form filling even, or answer questions on a reading. You might use that. And you can create QR codes for all these as well. You just have to make sure the access is available to them when creating it. Book Creator. So some of you said you've used Book Creator before. So Book Creator allows you to create an ebook. So I showed you the one I made for that, but this is just a more basic one here. So it is, now it's a bit glitchy at the moment and I don't know why. It took ages to load for some reason and it doesn't like Zoom, if I remember correctly. So just bear with me, I might, it might drop us a second. So we got here, I created a small book called Reading for March 2023. And we can flip through the pages, or the students can flip through the pages. And what I found as well is they like to go home and read these on their own. So this again is part of your self-directed learning. You know, they're just going home and having a read over these materials again themselves. And I've created, actually, this is a point that came up when I was making the thesis. See the style of it? So it's portrait mode, so it's a rectangle standing. This works best for students on their phones because it's the same as their screen. All right, because there are options to make square ones or longer ones, but if your students are mostly using their phone, I recommend using this style. So yeah, we've got a little book here on a recipe, so you can make it there on its own. So we've got Boxty, and then we've got myself here, my speaker. We've got Read to Me, where it can read out for them, but they could just flip through again in their own time. and so on. There's a few readings in there that they could have a look at. So Book Creator is nice, but it can take a bit of practice to get used to. So just be aware of that. It can take a bit of time to kind of get familiar with. Yeah, so where are we going? Okay. The other one is Word Wall. Now this one I'm very fond of. I just can't, my screen seems to have stopped working properly. I'm just going to bring this back up. There we go. Okay, so Word Wall. Has anyone used Word Wall before?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that Louise?
Yeah.
Yeah. And how do you find it?
It's a while since we used it. I think we used it in college, actually, one of the modules we did. I can't really remember it. I just remember her saying we were using Word Wall and Jamboard.
So Word Wall is a game website, and it allows you to create games for your students. It gives you 5 free games, and then you have to start paying so that you can make more games. But you can use other people's games as well, which is quite useful. So if you go to Google and search Word Wall and a person's name, a topic, it'll come up in there for you. Now my bar seems to have disappeared for some reason, so I'm just going to go in here. Word Wall. So I've used up my 5 games apparently. I'll just go into my activities here. So it's like this. Some of these we made before, but here we go. So it allows you to choose the content and add the pictures as well. So the student has to drag it over to the right place. And they can use, so if they're using a phone, it's great for their digital literacy skills for their dragging on the phone. But if they're using a computer, their mouse skills develop from this as well. And then we've also got the part of the gamification in there, you know, that the gaming element that helps them. So I've got some wrong there, but anyway, we submit our answers. We get our ticks and our nice little sounds and everything that tell us we're doing well. Okay. A few comments there. So yeah, they can be hard to see on a phone, Grace. So you just have to make sure when you're making them, you don't put too many elements into it, I think. So if you keep it quite basic, and there are different games actually that work better on the phone, like the quiz mode, it's kind of like Kahoot, so it will work a bit better. But just not kind of putting in too many elements in there. But it's a great one to play around with. It's really intuitive to build your own games in. So definitely have a look at that one and have a go. So you can sign in or get your organization to set up a license with it. I don't get any commission here, guys, don't worry. All right, where am I? Okay, Google Lens, I've talked a little bit about that, but that's really useful. It's an app that you download to your phone or your tablet, and you can use it for scanning QR codes, but you can also use it for scanning a document, and it will read out the document to the students, okay? And I do have a video on this actually, so I'm going to skip to that and we're going to have a quick look at that. Stop share for a second because I think I shared without sound, so no, it's on. Okay. So many elements going on the screen here. So skip it over a bit. So this is just some of our students and the things they have done in class.
And
There we go.
next, you will hear from students Catherine, Tony, and Martin talk about how they feel using technology for learning.
I only start learning technology when the COVID started. That's when we start learning because we had to do Zoom at home and stuff. So I didn't think I'd ever be able to do technology going on Zoom and all, but when I realised, when I showed her how easy it was to get onto it, I like that. But I was a bit nervous at first because it was myself, I'm 11, I'd never be able to do that. they'll show me that and it'll go in my head when I go home. Just, I was saying that, that'll go in my head when I go home. No what they're showing me that for, no like that, but I was amazed how I learned that.
Didn't use any really technology. They only got the phone when it was a violin talk. I got used to it fairly quick once I got shown what to do with it, you know.
So that's the
But
Google
when I went
Lens there.
online, I had a bit of a problem getting in and out, putting codes in, and changed the system on the pads. It was handier to get in then.
So that reads
Didn't
out
have
the
a problem
words to
getting
the
in.
students, and
The
it's
phone
great
was
as
the
a
first thing I went to
assistant.
start using. We used to have one of these little phones, but then I went into the big phone and it made a big difference in life for me, the phone did. And then when I went to do the computer class and we went down into lockdown straight away, unfortunately, and then I had to do the Zoom meetings. And I was taught through it step by step and it worked very well and can use it now fantastically.
Here is some final advice from our students.
And see you get there, you know, like that. You just take time and just take your time doing it and take slow it and all, and you get there with it. Don't be nervous.
That's the WhatsApp uploading
watch
voice
what-
notes.
You're being showed. Once you do it 2 or 3 times, you'll pick it up.
Yeah, go try it. You can't fail. You can only get better. You can't get any worse than what you are. You know, but you don't know anything about it. It's a nervous point to get into to start it. But once you get going, you'll never stop. You'll never want to come out of it.
A few wise words there from some of our students. But yeah, they, again, a lot of them had never used smartphones. They didn't even own smartphones before lockdown, you know, probably like a lot of your own students. And now they're accessing a lot of things online. They're using their phones daily for lots of different elements of everyday life. Any questions? How are we doing? We're almost wrapping up, I think. Not wrapping up, but we're getting close on time.
There's a question from Christine. She's
Yeah.
saying, does student need to register for these apps in advance, or will the QR code bring them to use it?
So a lot of them, if you're the person creating them, then you're going to publish them and then they will have access to them. They won't need to log in or anything. So like the likes of WordWall or Padlet, you would just send them a link or a code and they would be able to just access it. They wouldn't have access to editing it, whereas you would. So they're just kind of seeing the finished product, I guess. So yeah, no, they don't need to register usually. And I try actually to tell my students not to register for anything unless I'm with them, because you don't know what they're clicking on or signing up for, and they need to check the what they're saying yes to, you know. Google Lens seems great. I've heard of it before, but wasn't fully aware of what it did. Yeah, Google Lens is fantastic. So it has a few different options on it, and it's on every Google. If you have Google on your phone, you have Google Lens access. It's on the search bar. There's a little camera there. If you click on that, you'll see it. And what it gives you is there is a, like you could see in the video there, Tony was scanning a document and it was reading out the document to him. So that meant he could read along with the Google Lens with the phone and improve his learning. And a lot of our students use it in their daily lives for letters that they receive in the post and so on. And it makes them just so much more confident with it as well. I haven't used Google Lens yet. Oh, it translates as well. So if you have ESOL students, you can use it for that. Or if you're on holidays yourself, you can use it. But the translations are good. But obviously we know ourselves that, you know, we shouldn't use Google Translation for large pieces of text. You don't need to download the Google Lens app. Yeah, the camera's on the search bar. Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Grace. Great. Okay, brilliant. I'm just going to check if there's anything else there that I want to do.
There's a question, Mary Claire, from
Oh, yeah.
Dermot.
Great. Is it easy to design a book project in Book Creator? It's not, to be honest, Dermot, it can take a bit of time. It can. You kind of have to get familiar with it first. But they used to do, I don't know if they still do, but they used to do really great workshops and webinars. They might have them on video now, but it is kind of playing around with it. And it just does take a bit of time. if you're into kind of designing and stuff, it's interesting, but can get a bit frustrating because you might click off something and then it'll change to something else and you'll have to go back in and click on it. But it is worthwhile creating these texts because number one, your students will have access to it all the time. And then number two, you will have a bank of reading as well, reading material that you can share with lots of different students, or you can share with your fellow tutors and so on, you know. So I do recommend it. It just takes a bit of time. Okay. So I was going to do a game, but I don't think we have time, but I'll put them up if people want to have a go at them later on. So there was a thing that we did with our students, which was a word photo hunt. So we gave them, it's almost like a scavenger hunt, really. We gave them a list of things that they had to take a photo of. So taking a photo of a shop's opening hours, a menu, a yellow sign, and then each of them got a different letter that they had to look for words in. So F or L or T, or food words of days of the week. So we went out as a group, and then they could access a Padlet with a QR code and upload the photos to the Padlet. Alternatively, you could use WhatsApp as well, and they could share the photos in WhatsApp. But this kind of got students during the week when they weren't in class with me, they could go out and take photos. They're developing their literacy skills and their word skills. And they began to do it themselves on their own as well. So it's, again, part of that self-directed learning skills, you know. And so you're just kind of blending all those things. And like I said before about the QR codes or the links, as well, the links are great in WhatsApp if you're using WhatsApp with your students, is that they're just I guess the digital literacy part of it just becomes the background, you know, the other part of it becomes the main thing. Finding a words or finding menus or reading them at home is the main part, but the hidden curriculum, as I like to call it, and as people say, is the digital literacy elements of it, getting used to that. Some chat there. Anything there? Great.
Yeah,
thank
really,
you guys.
really positive feedback from Mary Claire. And yeah, I saw somebody asking, will I forward on Mary Claire's presentation? Yeah, I will.
So there's a few other elements there, Fergus, but yeah, definitely, guys, I'll pop share that with you, and you can have a look at them. There's a few other bits at the end there where it gives suggestions of things you can do in the classroom as well.
Yeah. So it just leaves me to say a really big thank you to Mary Claire. So many ideas and suggestions there, and you can see from the chat now that people absolutely loved it. So,
Great.
and you can see that you put in a lot of work and a lot of prep, and it's really appreciated. So thanks very much, and thanks Noelle for helping me co-host and meet people and all that stuff. So thanks again, Mary Claire, and I will forward her presentation to everybody. Okay.
Great, thank you so much, guys, and thank you for the feedback and everything. By the way, I used Canva to create that. I don't know if anyone has heard of Canva, but it's a tool you can use to design things. And just also, Fergus, we were saying about the student day.
Yes, do you want to mention that?
Yeah, so I think the student day for the NALA students is on. I just can't remember exactly what day. Is it the 25th?
Is it Saturday the 25th? I think, is it?
I think it's Saturday the 21st. So I'll be running a workshop for students on digital safety, online safety elements and things like that. So, but there's lots of other workshops on as well. Yeah. So
if you want to spread the word to your students that it's on, yeah. Thanks, Derb. There, it's Saturday the 25th of March. It's in Dublin, Derb, isn't it? I think so.
It's the Ashling Hotel. Yeah.
Oh, the Ashling Hotel. Okay, thanks a million. Listen, thanks again, Mary Claire. That was so well prepared, and you've a lovely laid back and relaxed way of delivering too, which helps. Okay. So,
thank you very much.
Thanks everyone for tuning in, and all the best. I'll put the recording up of this onto the NALA YouTube channel if you missed something. Okay, bye-bye.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary.
Thank you. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.